I've often been asked, why are you writing another book about Abraham Lincoln? The answer is really twofold. For one thing, since I knew it would take a long time, 10 years in fact, I wanted to live with this man. I wanted to immerse myself in the Civil War, perhaps the most dramatic event in the history of our country. People who've written about Lincoln have said the reason so many people write about him is because he's so companionable, and I certainly found that out. And I think there can never be too many books about a man who was both a great and a good man, a very rare combination in our public life. Indeed, the qualities that made him such a good man ended up making him a great politician, which again is a very rare and very needed quality in today's life. What made it so much fun to work on this book was the vast amount of primary sources that I was able to dig into. In the 1850s and 60s, people wrote letters all the time. They would come home from running the Civil War in the day and sit down at night writing hundreds and hundreds of letters over time to their wives, their children, and their family members. So I was able to dig up the Seward family correspondence, an 800-page diary by their daughter Fanny that she kept from the time she was 15 until 2 weeks before her death at the age of 21. Salmon Chase, his Secretary of the Treasury, recorded the events of 4 decades of his life in this huge diary. His daughter Kate kept a diary as well. The Attorney General Bates kept a diary that he wrote in every single night. Stanton wrote long emotional letters to his wife. Somehow when you're reading the letters that people wrote in handwriting at the end of a day, there's an intimacy about it that you really feel you're sitting over their shoulder, and it allows you, I believe, to recreate what it was like to live so many years ago. I'd originally thought of focusing on Lincoln and Mary, doing for the Lincolns what I had tried to do for Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. But when I looked into how Lincoln spent his time during the Civil War, it was clear that in terms of the emotions he shared, the time he spent, it was much more with the members of his cabinet than it was with Mary Lincoln. Because of the pressing events of the war, he would be staying up late at night with these guys as opposed to his wife. And it turned out that they had so many more intimate relationships with him and emotional times with him that they became the focus. Even though Mary is in the book, she's one of the characters, they really have become the primary characters. And that's what made me end up writing about the team of rivals, because it allowed me to tell what Lincoln was doing day by day through the mirrors of their memories. I think what surprised me the most was I knew that Lincoln was the great emancipator. I knew he was a great statesman, but I certainly had not realized what a canny politician he was, nor did I realize how funny he was. There's something about that sad, long face, about the statue in the Lincoln Memorial, and the pictures that we saw of him over and over with him never smiling, that made him seem so monumental that it was hard to imagine him sitting around with his shoes off at the end of the day telling a funny story. But he did that day after day, night after night. And I knew he'd be great. I knew I would admire him, but I didn't imagine I'd have so much fun living with him as I've had in these last 10 years.